Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for yet more dedicated legacy action. Today we're playing my little pet deck, which is Monowhite Painter. So this particular list we're calling GrindStoneForge, and this is version 1.1. The other week we played a version like this, but we've made a few little tweaks since then. So the aim of the game with this deck is to either apply a lot of pressure with Stoneforge Mystic and Call to Complete or Jitte to basically crush your opponent through aggro. Alternatively, you can combo with the Painter's Servant Grindstone combo, which is the thing that you win with most of the time, I would say. We have a bit of glue in this deck in terms of Oswald Fiddlebender, who can find either Grindstone or Painter. And we have sort of just your good mono-white tools. So we have Esper Sentinels, Mother of Runes, Aether Vials. We've got Canonist, which is a little bit unusual, but works really well in this deck. We also have a Crucible Wasteland lock, which is a very good thing to also run with Saga, because Crucible Saga just gives you constant pressure. So we've got a few bits that we can find with the Saga. So we've got the Pithing Needle, Shadow Spear, Soulguide Lantern, and a Mox Opal, as well as the Aether Vial and Grindstone, which is our actual combo. And we have some lands that are pretty good with Crucible of Worlds, like Horizon Canopy, as well as the ones we mentioned earlier. And that's more or less it. It sounds quite straightforward. There's a lot of lines you can play. In the main deck, the removal is a little bit light because you just have Portable Hull and Swords to Plowshares. Portable Hull because you can tutor it with Fiddlebender, so you can turn an Ancient Den into a removal spell, which is quite handy later on. And then obviously we've got things like the Jitte, which can act like a removal spell in certain situations. Sideboard-wise, we're still running these Anointed Peacekeepers that I'm a big fan of. They're just a big beefy body that doesn't get killed by a Meltdown, and it can really slow down what your opponent's doing, as well as picking apart which bits of removal or counter spells you have to play around for future turns. Rest in Peace, I think, is just the best Graveyard Hate in white. Just wanted that. Deafening Silence to slow down combo decks. A bit more Graveyard Hate in Grafdigger's Cage. Source Plowshares because we need more removal in some matchups. And then March for the Worldly Light, which can be removal when needed, but can also blow up things like Chalice or any sort of prison pieces that may be around. Alright, we're going to jump into a league and see how we do. So we're on the draw for game 1 of round 1, and our opening hand doesn't have any white mana. But we do have double Aether Vial, so we could try and play the Aether Vial game, but we only have one land and it's a disappearing land, so I think we have to mulligan in all good conscience here. This hand is not particularly exciting, but we can play an Urza Saga game. We have a Sentinel. So generally you want Urza Saga or Stoneforge Mystic in your opening hand, in my experience, or a big chunk of the combo. So we've kind of got that. So I think we will keep this and put back the redundant Aether Vial. We can lead out on a basic as well, which is always helpful. What is this? Looks most likely to be Delver. Sure. Okay, so Delver, that's fine. This matchup has historically been quite good for the mono-white painter deck while I've been playing it. So we'll play out this Aether Vial. This has to get an answer, otherwise we start getting free spells. So they can just daze this, which is fine. That gives them a turn longer to hit Murktide, and it also means they have less counter spells for the next thing we do, in theory. Okay, so they put a Force of Will into their graveyard. Interesting. That suggests to me that they might already have a Force of Will in hand. So I do have the Wasteland here, which you can use to try and crimp down the resources of a Delver player, but you have to be really careful because they have all these blue spells, so they can filter and find lands more easily than you can. So the Wastelanding plan isn't always a good one against Delver unless you're in the right position, so like behind a Vial or something like that. So what do we do here? I think we play out the Urza Saga so we can get that ticking. Obviously this is susceptible to Wasteland, but if it doesn't get Wastelanded, it can absolutely run away with the game. I'm going to play out the Esper Sentinel. So this should slow down our opponent. So we didn't want to play out the Grindstone then into a Daze. Okay, so they flipped and they revealed a Ponder. So our opponent can ponder us this turn. Get some more cards in their hand. Deal with our threats. There's the Volcanic Island we knew about. So it can be worth Wastelanding Delver just to keep them off of Murktide. But if you Wasteland them and then they just play another land, you just help them cast their Murktide. So I assume they're going to pay the extra 1 for this. They can't make Dragon's Rage Channeler into a 3-2 this turn. So we're just taking the 4. I say just, it's still quite a lot, isn't it? Okay, so now we start playing the Urza Saga game, and then we try and tool it up with a Shadow Spear once we've made our constructs. They've only got 3 cards in hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they're relatively close to playing a Murktide. They can attack with this if they want to trade the Channeler for a 1/1 Urza Saga token. Question is, do I want to trade for a 1/1 Urza Saga token? I don't think I want to make that trade. I need to keep as many artifacts in play to keep my Urza Saga big. If they miss on a land this turn, I will definitely wasteland them. But otherwise, we will just play the Grindstone out to buff the size of our Urza Saga constructs. They finished their Ponder. They did not shuffle, but they have a fetch land, so they might have just wanted the 1 card and they can get rid of the rest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they can Murktide us. I suspect it's just the 3/2 coming in here. No? Okay, they want to try and take that trade. I'm not interested in that trade. So this is the Murktide. That's pretty bad for us. Looks like it is because they're into the old paying cost stage of things. We do have 1 main deck Swords to Plowshares. Sure, Murktide Regent. So we make a 1/1. So we have the Painter's Servant here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. So we don't have enough to combo off this turn. So I think we just make... So this is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this needs to gain us some life this turn to stop us from dying, which is a little awkward. So we need the mana to equip the Shadow Spear, which is 2 mana. So if we make a token, we can't actually equip. So we have to activate this for mana. And then we get the Shadow Spear. Then we play out this like this. And so this has to equip to gain us life so we don't die this turn. So this is not ideal. We can play out the Painter's Servant actually, because we've got the 1 floating still. So we play out the Painter's Servant this turn. And we'll name green. So we can go off next turn, but we need to attack with this guy. We need the 4 life here to survive. Now we're still dead to a multitude of things they can have. So this is 8, 9, 10, 11. So they could have double lightning bolt. But this is just going to gain us some life and hopefully keep us alive for another turn. If they don't have the removal or counter spell, then we're alright, provided they don't have double bolt. Although 1 bolt is enough because it will get rid of our win condition. So it's quite tight margins on this game. Like even a daze would be enough because it would stop me having enough mana to activate my Grindstone. They can wasteland my wasteland if they have one. There's a lot of options our opponent has to stop us from winning the game, but they have to have it. Expressive iterations, that can find them a lot of these answers. So they can also use, if they get another land, they can put a card on top of their library using the Mystic Sanctuary, which will buff their Murktide Regent to 9, which will put me in range of a single lightning bolt. Their Dragon's Rage Channeler is close to being a 3/2 here. Okay, this doesn't impact what we're doing. So if they have lightning bolts, they can also use them in their upkeep before they draw. So it's right to play out more stuff first and then untap and try and finish me off in the upkeep. Okay, so lightning bolting our Painter's Servant. So that is going to be game. Okay, so post sideboard. We've got some Swords to Plowshares. I really like this art of the Swords to Plowshares. I have these in foil for my paper version of this deck. Rest in Peace I like in this matchup because it shuts down a bunch of their things. So take out the Crucible. Let's put it here so we have a side-by-side for you all. The Pithing Needle is only for shutting down wastelands. I'm not necessarily particularly bothered about shutting down wastelands. The Soul Guide Lantern does a similar job to Rest in Peace. It also cantrips, so don't hit that. Trimming on some of our things that are meltdownable is something I always do in this matchup. So I shrink the combo side a little bit and lean more into the Stoneforge package. And I'm not opposed to trimming an Ether Vial, but if they get a really wasteland heavy draw and I don't hit many of my basics, it's important to have them. So I think trimming another Grindstone here, because we have 4 Urza Saga, 4 Oswald Fiddlebender. So I think having the ability to just shoot for the Grindstone is better. And we have these removal spells. There's also an option of bringing in a number of March of Otherworldly Lights to try and snipe out some of their small guys. which is also something that I'm not opposed to. I think I'll trim one Fiddlebender for a march. I think that'll be fine. Like, we can just go get a Cauldra or a Jitte and just go to the races that way. Right, I'm going to submit. So this hand is incredibly vulnerable to Wasteland. And it doesn't have any turn 1 plays. And I can get 6 card hands that are basically the same because I've got a lot of redundancy. So I'm going to mulligan. So this hand is great. I get to curve Esper Sentinel into Stoneforge Mystic. We have a bit too much artifact mana for my liking, but we're going to put one of these Ancient Dens on the bottom anyway. So we'll play out this Esper Sentinel and see if it draws us any cards. Hopefully it will. Ideally, our opponent starts on a Ponder rather than a threat. Whenever a Delver deck starts on a Ponder or some sort of cantrip instead of a threat, then it feels a lot fairer, to be honest. Whenever they start a Dragon's Rage Channeler, it feels like it doesn't really matter what deck you're playing. It's quite a gross opening play. Okay, so they have it. Okay, that's not ideal for us. Play this out, it plays into Meltdown, but it saves us a life for now. Play out this Shadow Spear, and I can pay for a Daze. Then I can play out the Mox Opal. And then we have enough mana to activate this, which means they're going to have to be paying 2 mana for every single one of their spells for the trigger, because it's based on his power. And we also get 2 little life here. And next turn we can play the Stoneforge Mystic around a Daze and potentially hold up a Horizon Canopy as well. So at this point, if they're going to start filtering cards, they're just going to have to play into my... Okay, this is good. So we have an Urza Saga now. So if we play out the Saga, if we play the Stoneforge and it gets countered, we still have a backup plan that's pretty strong here. So we'll use our artifact mana first. I suspect this will be a Force of Will and tap down their islands, but we have to work through that Force of Will at some point. I think if this resolves, we're in very good shape. Oh wow, it just resolved straight up, did it? So this is the question, do we get the Jitte or do we get the Cauldra? Because they can quite likely Lightning Bolt our Stoneforge Mystic. But I think we can take the Cauldra here, because even if they don't, if they kill the Stoneforge Mystic, we're going to play an Urza Saga game. If they don't, then we get to play the Cauldra game, and both of them should beat what's face up on the board right now. The one issue is if they have Lightning Bolt for our Stoneforge and follow up with a Meltdown. That's what I would describe as not ideal. Okay, so our opponent didn't do anything with their entire second turn, which is a nice spot to be in for us. So they have the third lands. They can cast 1-drops and pay the tax. Okay. Another Dragon's Rage Channeler. And they can't attack with it. Okay, Source of Plowshares is nice here. We kind of get to have everything here. I think we play this out. We want to be using this mana, because it's the less likely to be permanent. So we can put a Cauldra Complete into play. So this is a good threat that can't be Meltdown. It's 7 mana. They can bounce the creature with Brazen Borrower. So we can attack with both and try and blow them out of Source of Plowshares. Or, because we're winning the race here, we can just attack with the Germ token, I think. It's fine. And then we start making Urza Saga tokens. So this could be a Brazen Borrower that draws us a card. A Petty Theft, sorry. The first side of Brazen Borrower. Sure. So they get to surveil twice, but we get to draw a free card. A Wasteland. Okay, that's not a terrible draw. Cauldra did not manage to connect though. So they can do some real damage to us with the Meltdown on their turn. You have 2 card types. Unholy Heat. Are they going to pay? Or do I get another card? Okay, so they're paying the tax. They spend their whole turn to kill my 1/1. That's fine by me. So their Dragon's Rage Channeler still only has 2 Delirium, depending on what they surveil here. A Murktide Regent. Happy to see it in the graveyard and not in their hand or in play. So the Wasteland game doesn't look particularly strong right now against all the mana they have. They should probably come in here for 2 damage. I think when you're at a stage where you're holding back your Dragon's Rage Channelers, that's not really where you want to be as a Delver player. So we'll make this. So a nice 5/5 that can't be lightning bolted. Make another one of these. And then we can tutor for Soulguide Lantern so that they can't Murktide. So there's only 1 creature in there, isn't there? So that's the best one to take out. And I think we play our Wasteland out so we can hold up white mana here. Equip this to our 7/7 guy. We'll crack this after we've attacked. So this should hit them for a nice big chunk of damage and gain us a boatload of life. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we will exile our opponent's graveyard now so they can't untap into Murktide Regents. We are quite far ahead here. A meltdown can definitely cause us some issues though. But we have a Swords to Plowshares for a creature. And we can start putting equipment on the Stoneforge Mystic if we need to. The fact that they didn't melt down before and just Unholy Heated suggests they didn't have it in hand and they're looking for it. Sounds good to me. Okay, so they're filling out their graveyard pretty quick with these Surveil triggers. So they only need a sorcery in there to trigger, or a creature, to make these into 3/2s. Obviously that's a lot smaller than the big creatures I have in play. Do we manage to dodge the meltdown? I think meltdown is the only thing they can have here that gives them a chance to win this game. A ponder. Sure, so they can still melt down for 1 or 0 here, both of which are good. Okay, so Dragon's Rage Channelers are 3/3s now. Ponder is going to find them what? They've shuffled their library, so they didn't have the meltdown in the top 3 cards. Another Brainstorm, so they can obviously still melt down for 0, which is going to clear our constructs and our mana sources. So they're going to be probably fine if they can draw that, for at least for a little while. So they've been putting everything into graveyard with their Surveil triggers, so they're very much digging for the one specific card here. It's kind of gross how many cards they've seen. They've only got 33 cards left in their library. A ponder. Okay. That suggests to me they don't have, they could also still have a land in hand, which could give them the meltdown this turn. Or they could have found a land off of the Brainstorm to keep, so they can dig a bit deeper. They've only got 1 more fetchable. They've got 2 more fetchables. Okay, so they didn't have the meltdown. Excellent. So we go back to the sideboard. Everything seemed pretty good there, to be honest. The Anointed Peacekeepers aren't actually great in this matchup because of Lightning Bolts. They're sort of for matchups where the enemy's removal is white mana sources, so it doesn't matter on the size of it, but the effect is important. All right, I think we just resubmit like this. We've got our removal spells. We've got our threats. I think we're good. This hand is a little bit slow and doesn't have any of the key pieces I would like, but it has enough mana that I can't get wastelanded out of a game. I have a removal spell on something that shuts down a reasonable amount of their deck. This is very marginal. I think this is a very mediocre keep, but we're going to keep it. We're on the draw, so we have some more time. Okay, let's start with Mystic Sanctuary. If you're going to start with Mystic Sanctuary, I'm just going to wasteland you immediately, I think. Mystic Sanctuary turn 1 is definitely a sign of weakness, generally. So, okay, so they've got wasteland now. Play out this. They can't daze this because they don't have access to an island. So play out Esper Sentinel. Let's see if they did have another land. They did not. Okay, so this is good news for us. So this is the one we want to get wastelanded the most. So this is the one we play out. So there's an option of whether I play the Rest in Peace now or the Canonist. I think the Canonist is better because it at least applies pressure. And we don't need to remove their graveyard just yet. We can play the Rest in Peace around a daze potentially. So our opponent is on a slow clock, but it's a clock nonetheless. We can start fiddle bending soon if we need to. We can just get a Jitte with our fiddle bender off the Esper Sentinel and just make a guy that can machine gun down everything. And we're going to draw cards all the time from them. Okay, so we've got Saga, which is a nice one that we can play out next turn. Okay, we've got another removal spell here as well. Just play out the Rest in Peace now. Just to make sure if they do get any threats, they're not going to do anything. I don't have to play around a daze here. This is something that can eat a Force of Will, potentially, but no, okay. So we just go to attacks. There is a very, very slim chance our opponent is playing Fury, which is something I have seen in some Delver lists, but not in any of the winning Delver lists. So I don't think it's something we should really be thinking about here. I don't know why you would play Fury. You're never going to cast it. But people will play it because it's a good card, even if it's not good in the deck. Alright, so they managed to materialize a land. They're quite far behind, and everything they do is probably going to end up giving us some cards. Okay, so we get a free card. Cauldron complete. So now we start making constructs, I think. Well, that's a big game if that resolves. So we can either just play the construct game, which will play badly into a meltdown, or we can play out the Stoneforge Mystic around a daze. I think we want to play the Stoneforge Mystic around a daze here. And we're going to get the Jitte this turn, because we already have the Cauldron in hand. So this might let them know that we have the Cauldron in hand, but they might also just think I want to get it to shut down any little creatures they have, because they have to win with Delver of Secrets under a Rest in Peace, or a Brazen Borrower, which can then bounce this and play it. But the Jitte would deal with any of those threats. So we're quite far ahead in this game, obviously. The Mystic Sanctuary on turn 1 was the ultimate sign of weakness there. Okay, so lightning bolt with that, which means they must have either another lightning bolt, or that's very odd to me that you wouldn't do that unless you had the second lightning bolt. Because Stoneforge is the real deal. Okay, sure. So now we play out the Urza Saga game. And I think we get we can either get the Shadow Spear or the Ether Vial here. What are we casting this turn? We're just holding up we're just going to hold up the Source to Plowshares this turn, which I think means we probably want to get Ether Vial. Yeah, okay, I think that's what we want. Just get the mana advantage. This plays into Wasteland and Meltdown. At the moment, I don't really mind if they Meltdown me so much because my board isn't that impressive. So this is one of the turns where it's okay to be Meltdown, I think. I'd rather get Meltdown before I Portable Hole than after, but we'll see how that goes. Certainly a good way to get back into the game. We'll clock up our Ether Vial, and this turn cut some more lands. So if we play out the Canonist here, I think that's the better play, because it means that they're obviously in search of things to make their hand work. So this means any searching they do takes the whole turn. So if I play out the Jitte now, then I'm exposed to a Meltdown for 2 quite badly. So I think I'm just going to attack with a 4/4 because I'm quite far ahead here. I don't want to jump into any mistakes or any ways of letting them back in the game, because we can play and equip this in one turn, which is fine. And I'd much rather do that than play out and just get everything caught by Meltdown just for 1 extra point of damage on our Construct token and a slight saving of mana later on. A Ponder. So they can't Meltdown us this turn. So if I play out 2 artifacts, they die. They can still Lightning Bolt away the S1 cannon, so I don't think it's worth cracking this just yet. So I'll add a counter to this. Okay, so we have a Caracas. So this turn we can play and equip the Umezawa's Jitte. A bad thing to do. Sure. So it's getting a Force of Will. So that's their only spell for the turn. So they've taken 4, 5, 6. So if I just cast this, that gives us another artifact for lethal damage. Okay, yeah. So that's the game. So I'm quite happy with the Delver matchup. I think painted decks generally are actually quite good against Delver, but I think the white one especially, because you kind of have the Taxes stuff that's good against Delver anyway. As you can see, once we sort of shore up our sideboard options. Obviously our opponent didn't have an incredible hand there because we took it out from underneath them. But the second game was a relatively good display as well, I thought. All right, on to round 2. Okay, we're into round 2, and this is our opening hand. It's decidedly weak to Wasteland, but we have the Vial. We do have a white source as well. And we have our combo, so we just really need some more mana to go with this one. This is an 80 card deck we're playing against, which means it's either Death and Taxes, Yorion, or it's some sort of blue pile. So I think we will reluctantly keep this one. Like, it just takes 1 Plains for this deck for this hand to be really good, to be honest. We do have a big decision point on turn 1, whether we play out the Saga so that our white source doesn't get wastelanded, which is a real big one. But I think we play this out, play out an Ether Vial. We should get some information as to what our opponent's doing. Pretty sharpish. So if they're an 80 card deck, it means they're less likely to have a wasteland straight away. Okay. A basic Plains and an Ether Vial. So this is giving me the impression that they are Death and Taxes. They could be Yorion Esper Vial, which is a deck that you see every now and then. But the most likely is that it's Death and Taxes. Okay, so we get this. Okay, so we have the Plains that we wanted. Do we just play out the as a Saga? I think we're just going to plan to combo on 3 with Mother of Rune's Protection here. I think we just play this one out. And we don't need to commit anything else to the board here. If we play out... We can play out a Grindstone now. And then next turn we can kill them. That seems fine to me. Let's play out the Grindstone. And we've got Source to Plowshares up, and we can flash an Ether Vial, so we can deal with a lot of things. I'm not unhappy with the way this hand is playing out. So we dodge Thalia here. I don't really know what they can have here apart from ways of attacking our mana. Arishdam Port, there you go, that attacks our mana. Okay, they're just playing Stoneforge Mystic. I think the game is most likely over now. We'll see if they got any interesting fruit in their sideboard. Just a call to complete, sure. So I think we activate this. Yes, we put in the Mother of Runes. This gives us protection against Solitude. And just in case something does go wrong, I think we want to get rid of the Stoneforge Mystic now. Yes, let's put this onto 2. Our basic planes. Activate this. Put in our Painted Servant in black. Activate this, targeting them. And there goes their library. Okay, so that was pretty good. That was a turn 3 kill. Not bad. On to sideboarding. So, we want to be able to remove their things. Anointed Peacekeeper is very good in this matchup because it's bigger than a 2-1 first striker and it can really jam up some of their lines quite nicely. Then we also have these March of Otherworldly Lights. So we've got a lot of cards that are good in this matchup. The Crucible of Worlds plan is very good. Oswald Fiddlebender is very bad because they play Caracas. So I'm not a big fan of this guy in this particular matchup, to be honest. Soulguard Lantern doesn't do anything here. The Jitte is very good. The Esper Sentinel is generally pretty weak here. So that's an option to cut. So we can just cut straight like this. It means we're going to have a lot less 1-drops. But we've boarded in some more removal. And these 1-drops aren't very good anyway. The Ether Vial is something that I don't like in this matchup, but is necessary because they attack your mana so much that if you have an Ether Vial in play, you can at least get around that. So I think we're going to go like this. And we just want to leverage things like Urza's Saga in this matchup and use our removal suite to keep us ahead and just sort of win out of nowhere. Because they can grind us over time more effectively because that's what their deck's designed to do. They've got all the Yorion and the Flickerwisp stuff. But we have a Oops I Win button and we have the ability to clock them quite fast. So we're going to submit like this. Alright, so this is our opening hand on the draw. We have a basic land, we have the Urza Saga package, we have 3 removal spells, we have our entire combo. So yeah, this is what Keep looks like to me. Okay, we also got the Stoneforge backup here as well. So we do have to be a little bit careful about when we play out the Grindstone because our opponent has ways of removing it. But because we have the Urza Saga, I'm actually going to play this one out. Do I play this one out now? No. I want to hold back my Swords to Plowshares for Stoneforge Mystic so I can break serve on the Stoneforge. I think that's the correct play. And we play a Stoneforge game until we Oops I Win. That's the plan at least. Yeah, so this is why we boarded out Oswald Fiddlebender. Okay, just a Jitte with no creatures. That's pretty good for us. Play this out. Play our Stoneforge. And we will also get a Mizawa's Jitte. We should be able to have it online before them. I guess they could play a 1-drop, but they missed on a 1-drop on turn 1, so it seems less likely they have it. And we also have March for the Otherworldly Light and all these removal spells. So I think we are quite far ahead in this matchup now. The Wasteland is big news though. That can really hurt our mana source. So we need to draw a land. So if we don't draw a land here, then they'll just start pouring us into oblivion. But as it is, we have, because we have all of these Grindstones, I'm just going to play one out immediately. And then hold up Swords to Plowshares to make sure nothing can wear this Jitte. Skyclave Apparition. So this can hit our Grindstone, which we don't care about because we've got many. Okay, so we've got a backup Urza's Saga here. So this is fine. So they're going to spend their mana equipping Jitte this turn. So what we want to do is play our own Jitte so that when they go to equip, we kill it, and then we have a creature to put our Jitte on. And then immediately get counters, and then it's going to be quite hard for us to lose the game, I would imagine. But there's a lot of things in their deck that can really jam us up. But I'm happy enough with the position we have, especially if they waste their entire turn putting Jitte on their creature. Okay, so then we get a 1-1, which is actually better than the redundant Grindstone, to be honest. And this can't be Skyclave Apparition either. So they're going to wasteland our Urza's Saga here. Yeah, okay. So that definitely makes it so the play is just tool up Jitte. Okay, so the Mother of Runes is going to die one way or the other. A mana source would be nice. We had a mana source, nice. Okay, so I want to equip this onto this guy, leaving open our white source. So they could trade their Mother of Runes here, but I think we're actually incentivized to kill their Mother of Runes and just stack up the counters on the Jit. Right, they're down to 2 cards, so we can just roll into our combo over the next few turns as well. And we're just going to use this as a control element. Oh, okay, so they've gone hellbent just to kill our 1/1 token that we didn't even make. Sure. So that little grindstone that I had got a lot of cards out of them. Chance of them drawing some sort of creature is quite high, just because that's how that deck works. But we can use this March of Otherworldly Light on their Jitte as well. A Field of Ruin, sure. So this is fine for us because we have a lot of basics in our deck. But they just put Yorion into hand. Interesting to me. So they have just Yorion, so we can play out Painter and Grindstone, so they'll be dead on the next turn. I don't hate that. So cast this, and we'll name black. Cast this. So they have 1 draw step to do something, basically. We can pitch both of these to kill a Yorion if we need to, but our opponent has 1 draw step to deal with our Painter Servant here. So let's see how they go. A Wasteland can potentially keep me off of the mana. So if they've drawn a Source to Plowshares, then that's pretty bad for us, because we can't activate this without getting our guy removed. So we're kind of in a situation where we're in a holding pattern until I draw another land so I can equip it with a Jitte, and then I can just keep attacking in. But if they have removal spells here, then we can't just grindstone away. But they also can't play their Yorion out until they have an additional mana source. Okay, so we've got the Plains here. So I think we use the Ancient Den and Plains to equip this to Painter Servant. We don't want to just lose the game to a Source to Plowshares here. So we put them in a bit of a bind. So if we draw another mana source, we can play the Anointed Peacekeeper and have a little peek, which is another reason why I really like the Peacekeeper. Or the Peak Keeper, I guess. Peeking is good. So the Field of Ruining here. So we'll float. So we still have the mana to activate if they have a removal spell. Maybe they're just doing that to thin their deck. An Ether Vial. So I have 2 cards in hand, one of them is Yorion. Very much like to draw a mana source here. We did not draw the mana source. Okay, so they can start making little creatures, but I can ping them all down with a Jitte. Just playing around the Swords to Plowshares. When this gets up to 3, that gives us a little bit more trouble because they can have creatures that can interrupt with us. Okay, they just didn't want to play that game anymore. So if we draw a land at any point, yeah, so we're going to draw a land next turn and peek at their hand anyway. So they were going to die pretty quick. Alright, so that's 2-0. Let's go on to the 3rd round. Okay, so welcome to round 3. This is our opening hand. We've got the Ether Vial. We've got a little bit of work if our opponent's Reanimator. We've got Pithing Needle, which can be useful. We've got half of our combo. We've got Fiddlebender to find the other half later on. So this is a keep from me. Our opponent's a 60-card deck, so could be anything really. Let's see what they play. A Bloodstained Mire. Not a fan of Bloodstained Mire. So the decks that play Bloodstained Mire are Goblins, Reanimator, and the Epic Storm. So because of that, I'm going to take a turn off and play my Soul Guide Lantern. I do not want to get beaten by Reanimator. And I've been given a chance that I might be able to beat the Reanimator deck, so I may as well take it. There's definitely a strong chance they're not Reanimator. There's certainly a possibility. They could also be some sort of brew. Okay, so looking more like Goblins. Okay, so it wasn't the best play, but if they were a Reanimator, they could have just been waiting for an end of turn entomb, untap, kill me. So I'm okay with taking that line. What have we got for us? Okay, so this is going to be the more combo-y build, which I don't think is as good, to be honest. All right, so we have a Source of Plowshares, which is a great piece of utility here. So we play this out. We can play out the Ether Vial, and we can play out, and we can hold a Source to Plowshares. I don't hate that. Or we can also cycle the Soul Guide Lantern. We're not really getting on board in a big way here, but I think it's okay. We only have 1 plow in the main deck, so this matchup is going to be probably slightly in their favour game 1, I would imagine. But going to be much more favourable for us in the post-board games. Okay, so they're paying the echo cost for their 1/1. That's fine by me. It's not the most exciting of plays for them. If they drop a land and play a lackey, I think we Source to Plowshares it. Otherwise, we're going to be cycling this Soul Guide Lantern. Okay, let's have a wasteland. They're going to wasteland our wasteland. Sure. Let's draw a card. Okay, that's a very good card in this matchup. Let's put a counter on the vial. Start that ticking up. We've drawn another vial, which is interesting. I don't think we're really in the market for playing out this Pithinial. It's a case of, do you want this Ether Vial? The thing with Ether Vials is that they make it so our follow-up Oswald is going to be better because we can pitch one of the Ether Vials and go get a nice 2-drop. Especially if they're the combo build, we can get Canonist and really start jamming them up. And they're not presenting anything remotely resembling a scary threat right now. And if they do, we do have the Source of Plowshares that they can't wasteland or port us off of. We'll just cast it in response to the port if they have a port. Okay, so we get some Ether Vial triggers. So yes to both. Oh, no, there's a Saga. That's a very nice one to have drawn. So this gives us a combo in a few turns. So I'm going to play out Umezawa's Jitte now, I think. So when we start making guys, we can equip the Jitte to them and just machine gun down on their goblins. This feels like a relatively good place to be in, although they haven't played anything, so there's obviously a reason they kept their hands. So I need to work out what that is. Another wasteland. So we're going to lose our Ezra Saga. So equipping the Umezawa's Jitte might be a bit more troublesome. Are they going to attack into my... We've got 2 of these. There's no reason not to put one of these into play. Like if they want to cycle a Gem Palm just to kill my Oswald, that seems fine to me, because this guy was as a spare, really. Okay, our opponent thought long and hard about this one. Munitions expert. Sure. So they're getting rid of my Oswald to secure the life of their 1/1 goblin. I'm not opposed to that. The more removal spells they waste on stuff like that, the easier it will be for me to paint a servant them out of the game. I think it's also the threat of the vial, which is why we need to make sure we put the counter on the correct one here. Everyone loves Oswald Fiddlebinder. So we can play out a Pithing Needle, we can just hold up Swords to Plowshares. I think that's a safer play. Just put a 2/2 into play and get a blocks with it. Holding up Swords to Plowshares. If we draw a land, we can always have a Jitte as well. And the counter assault. So this is the turn they can cast Recruiter, which I assume is one of the reasons they kept this hand. You need to have some sort of way of... Oh. Pastalik Mons. Whenever another goblin... Okay. Not very exciting to me. Let's put in a Fiddlebender. And I think now is a good time to Source Plowshares this guy. We don't want them to be able to ping off. We'll also activate this. And we'll put in the Painted Servant now. And we'll name White. So that'll make them think that we have Solitude in our deck as well. So we should be able to clean up these 2 guys, which makes their munitions experts worse from here on out. So we're going to say no to both of these. A Shadow Spear. How important is a Shadow Spear? I would have really liked a way of getting this Jitte up and running. But what we can do here is we can sacrifice the Jitte for a Crucible of Worlds and get our combo running, but that would be losing a Jitte. So I think we sacrifice an Ether Vial this turn for a 2/2 and next turn for the Crucible. So I think we get the Canonist out. I don't really want to attack into them yet. I think this guy's better as a blocker for now. So next turn this becomes a Crucible. Or if we draw a land, we just equip the Jitte and start killing all their guys. Boggart Harbinger. Okay. What are they going to put on top of their library? What do we have to beat next turn? If it's something with activated abilities, then we've got that covered as well. If it's something like the Sling Gang Lieutenant. Or it could be the Conspicuous Snoop, and then they use these 2 to just make infinite creatures. Goblin Crater Maker. So I can Pity Needle the Crater Maker next turn. Do I have another white source in my graveyard? I do not have another white source in my graveyard. So this turn we get rid of the Canonist. Get Crucible of Worlds, my favourite magic card. Play as a Saga. Play Pithing Needle. Name Goblin Crater Maker. And now we can wasteland them out of the game as well. So we have an absolute wealth of riches here. We have this, when this pops, we can combo them out as well. Our opponent is in trouble. Slingang Lieutenant. Sure. So this is just drain life. And they sacrifice goblins. They do have quite a lot of goblins, but we get to start putting Mizawa's Jitte on creatures and attacking with them, which is going to be a real problem for them. They can just attack in and force damage through, which I think might be their best option here if they can keep making lots of guys. So this is a 2-1. So we could have flashed another painter there, but I think the extra 1 damage isn't an issue here, and we can flip the painter in without them knowing it's coming. I think that might be a better way if they're holding up removal for the painter. So we say no to this one. We've drawn a plains, which is nice, but I think we're just better off getting free resources this way. So we equip this onto this guy. What do we want to keep open here? We can't Muxus us unless they play a Scope Prospect, but we lose the Scope. But the Scope Prospect does that anyway. So I think we just play this plan. So it's going to be... Oh, they can sacrifice a guy to stop me from doing that, actually, can't they? Of course they can. So that's quite a good play around the Jitte, actually. Unfortunately, they do die next turn. Is it better holding up? I think it's better just to hold up this pretend Swords to Plowshares than to deploy a Shadow Spear that we're not really going to use. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we probably have to put our Painted Servant into play as a misstep. Attacking Rishadan Port. That doesn't stop us because we have a mana source in hand, and obviously we still have Crucible. Oh, it's nice to win a game of Crucible of Worlds. It's my favourite card after all. So they got 2 attackers here. They can... What are they going to do here? I think we do flash in the Painted Servant this turn to prevent the 1 damage. Alternatively, we can put in the Fiddlebender and then save this Painted Servant. I think I like that, actually, because that way we can trick them into holding up removal that's not going to work. So this turn we take 3. So if they have a Passionate Mons, they would have played it before combat. Goblin Power Driver, sure. I'm not sure what they can have for 3 mana. Crater Maker, this can't do anything because of the Pithing Needle that we drew, which is nice. So we untap. Do not activate Vial. I think we've got this game. Add 1 mana. Go and find Grindstone. Actually, this is targeting them. So let me see the whole graveyard. Yeah, so the Conspicuous Snoop sort of combo deck. Do we need to do anything here? I don't think so. Let me just pass the turn and let them die in their upkeep and their draw step. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 they can ping us for. They could have 2 more of those guys that have flash to make it 6. But they've only got 1 card in hand, actually. I'm not sure what it can be. Okay, so we go to sideboarding. So this matchup, again, gets better with sideboarding. So Swords to Plowshare is good. So this is very much a similar game plan to the Death and Taxes matchup. The Pithing Needle is good. Sorghum Lantern is bad. The Oswalds are actually all right here, so it's going to be a slightly different approach. So we can trim on Grindstones and just tutor for them. And we can trim on the Painted Servant here because we're going to be keeping the Oswalds because they got slightly more damage. The Esper Sentinels are bad here, so they can go again. How many slots do we need? We need 1 more cut. So I like the ability to play around their wastelands using Crucible, and obviously that game we've won it because of Crucible, which is a lovely thing to say. So we'll cut one of these just because they're legendary. So I think this is fine. Grafdigger's Cage is good in this matchup as well because they have, what's it called? Muxus. So I think I like having Grafdigger's Cage. The Deafening Silence doesn't actually help with the combo particularly because once they got their guy, it just keeps tapping. So it's a case of what do we trim for the Grafdigger's Cage, just to stop the Muxus. I think, it's a tricky one actually. It could be, I think it's probably one of the Painted Servants actually. So we've got certainly less ways of doing the combo, but the Painted Servant isn't that exciting. We just want to sort of beat them down with these lads really. So we're going to submit like this. So our opening hand here is weak to Wasteland, but we have 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, Stoneforge, and Umezawa's Jitte. So if we draw a Plains, this hand is great and highly favoured in my opinion. If we don't draw a Plains, or if we draw other mana sources, I think we're still fine. It's only if we don't hit land. So I think we can keep this one. Could get punished for it, but statistically I think we're favoured. Okay, Swamp File, sure. So we play this out. Play out the Mother of Runes. So we have a choice between Stoneforge Mystic and Umezawa's Jitte next turn, depending on if our opponent wastelands us. Okay, they have Rishadan Port, so they can use the port to get us instead. It's a little bit annoying, but okay, so we have the basic planes now. So if we play out the Saga, that's going to invite a wasteland, and we're not really ready to play the Saga game yet. So I think we'll just play out this to make our constructs bigger when we go in on the Saga game later on. And we'll hold this back to block lackeys. We can't afford to let Goblin Lackey connect with us. Okay, Skirk Prospector, sure. That's scary in a different way. So if we get the Stoneforge, we can play around the port by using instant speed activations of Stoneforge. And because you already have the Jitte, we can... Okay, so they've got to port and wasteland us. Yeah, it's going to be one of those games where we're just going to strip all of our mana sources away, I think. But if we keep drawing lands and they keep drawing wastelands, we'll eventually best them, I think. So, yep, goodbye Plains. So we have a wasteland, so we can wasteland their port, which I am in the market to do. And we just hold back. So their Jitte, their Aether Vial ticking up is going to be an issue for us. It's going to just allow them to put all sorts of weird and wonderful things in. Okay, another Vial. So they're very all in on these Vials. If they don't have another mana source, a Pithing Needle would be a great draw. So I think we play the Urza Slide. We might get a Pithing Needle off of it at this rate. It does shut off on my own Aether Vials, but I don't have Aether Vials right now. So I think we play this one out. Put out Stoneforge. We've already got the Umezawa's Jitte, so we just get called a complete, and this provides a terrifying threat. It will clock them very quickly. And we can protect it with Mother of Runes. So they're basically going to be in the situation where they're going to have to combo off. What I can do is I can play Anointed Peacekeeper on Conspicuous Snoop, which means that they can't activate Conspicuous Snoop's activate abilities without paying 2, so they won't be able to combo. So they should be wastelanding my Saga here. Yeah, there you go. I do have another land in hand though. Okay, so play out the Ancient Den. Go attacks. Tap a massive guy. Sure. So is this going to be the Boggart Harbinger? Matron. Sure. Conspicuous Snoop. So what we need to do really is draw a land for the Anointed Peacekeeper. Okay, a wasteland. So we can't do that play. That's annoying. So they're just assembling their bits and pieces here, and there's not much we can do about it. So we go attacks. Send in these guys. Just got to get them dead as quickly as possible here. I think we just play out another Mother of Runes here. Allows us to slip through for 5, 6, 7 next turn if we need to. So if they have the Snoop now, then they can untap. Pyrokinesis is pretty interesting here. So what am I doing with this for? Ringleader. Okay, that's not fine, but it's something that's happening. Okay, so now they got this guy. And they're going to put this up to 6 for Muxus. Looks like they are. Kiki Jiki. Okay. This gets them Matron, which gets them more things. So I think we're well on the way to losing this game, actually. A Source of Plowshares would be real handy. But Kiki Jiki, there's probably lines they have with Kiki Jiki where they can just go off. I'm trying to work out what that line will be. Like, they can just get a load of goblins and kill me, to be honest. And that's a pretty good way of winning the game here. So they can go and get a Muxus with the Matron, and then next turn they can put it into play with the Ether Vial. And that's probably going to be good enough to get me. If I draw the Source of Plowshares, maybe we'll be okay. Pashalik Mons, okay. Do they have the win now? I don't think so. I can certainly use this to ping a load of guys down. To any target. So they can sacrifice a bunch of their guys to machine gun the board down if they make mana off of the Scout Prospector with this. They only have one card in hand though, and it's this guy. So they might be able to do some sort of combo-y stuff. Okay. We're just going to F6 because they're either going to be able to kill us this turn or they're not. I should have just activated the mother, but they could just in response kill something anyway, so it's not worth the time on my clock to fiddle around with that. I can just press F6 and see how they go. Sure, so they can machine gun down things that aren't my 5/5, but they also have quite a lot of damage just coming back here. So it's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, so they can probably kill me next turn if they can't kill me this turn. We just let them carry on doing their thing. Okay, some more triggers. At the very least, it's going to put me ahead on clock, which is nice. They don't have a deterministic line to kill me either, so I have to let them play out. 8, 9, 10, 11. Sure. We'll not declare any blockers, because we can't. I'll just sacrifice and ping me for another 1 at end of turn. What have we got? So if we stand back to block, I can make another one of these. So the most I can block is 4 damage. There's 5 damage, so we're taking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so I'm dead on the next turn. So we'll concede. Right, so they basically just got our mana base out from underneath us on that one. But this time I think we have more ability to pick apart the pieces on the play, and we might be able to get our own vial down and get around their mana hamperings. And yeah, I think we'll submit as it was. I don't think that was the problem. Okay, so on the play this time, we have some mana, but we don't really have anything to do with this. We have to mulligan. We have an Ether Vial. We have an Omizawa's Jitte. Sign me up. We have to choose one of these cards to go back. I don't want to put a land back because of how they've been stripping our mana, so it has to be one of our guys. So I think it probably has to just be annoying. Siren going past there. It has to be the Anointed Peacekeeper, I think. The aim of the game is to get Umezawa's Jitte online as soon as possible. So we'll play this out. We can't play Umezawa's Jitte this turn anyway. We can't equip it next turn to anything. I think we still play it out though. So they'll live in fear of a 1-drop wearing a Jitte, I think. They do have a lot of sacrifice shenanigans to get around it, which is the problem. But needs must. Okay, I don't really care about this Rishdam port. Not yet, anyway. So we can Wasteland this turn, or we can... I think we just activate this, put in the Canonist, and we just equip the Jitte straight up. And we're playing one of those games. This is what I'm doing. Can you beat my guy? I'm hoping the answer is no. So they can have a sack outlet and that guy that makes 2 1/1s. That'd be pretty good to stop this for a while. Okay, so they're going to try and just wasteland all my mana out from underneath me. We've kind of already done the damage, I think, here. The War Marshal, okay. Underneath the vial, is this going to be a sack outlet? A munitions expert on my guy. That's pretty bad for us. So we have March of Otherworldly Light here, which is nice for us. Cut this Wasteland. So you can hit the vial, but I think we might be better off just Okay, so I think first off we put in a creature. That's certainly step one. And I think we want to equip Jitte to it now. We probably want to keep the Caracas to bounce it. And we want to keep a white... We can keep a white source that way. So I think we play it like this. And then we can March of Otherworldly Light. We can March of Otherworldly Light now, but then we'll lose our Caracas to save our Fiddlebender. So we only need to connect once with the Fiddlebender. I think we can win this game. But it's looking a bit tight here, truth be told. They're going to pay on their Echo here. They're not going to pay. Okay, that's less good for us. It means they might have something that they can do. We can waste down their port at end of turn if we feel we need more mana next turn. Okay, just another one of those. Sure. So we can use the March of Otherworldly Light on one of their blockers. If they try and just block with 2 creatures. There's no point wastelanding their wasteland here. I'm just going to keep open all my mana, I think. I think we say no until we draw a 3-drop. I think we go to attacks. And if they only block with 2 creatures, then I think we're good. Okay, they're blocking with 3 creatures here. 4 creatures. They're blocking with everything. That's very interesting to me. Assign blockers. So we want to kill this one and then the token. Sure. So we've got some counters on the Umezawa's Jitte, which gives us a little bit of redundancy. We do really desperately need to draw a creature, but there are quite a lot of them in our deck. And we have a removal spell open if necessary as well. The question is, do I take out the March of Otherworldly Light now? Take out the Aethervar now. I think we take out the port. So I think this makes sense because we can kind of constrict their mana for a change, and we have the ability to remove a conspicuous snoop at the moment with the Jitte. We just need another creature of some description. Conspicuous snoop. We just have to immediately kill this on site. We know they're drawing a swamp as well. So we haven't actually cut them off black sources. Is it worth playing out my mana source? So I think it's better to hold it, make them think that I have a source of plowshares, than playing it out. I think the margins I'll get on that are low, but they're real margins. So they can just bap into us now and start hitting us for 3 a turn. It's not a very fast clock, but if I don't draw action, it's going to build up pretty fast. Like I said, we don't want to put a counter on this until we draw the 3-drop at the very least. A wasteland. So we can wasteland their wasteland. That's not very exciting. I think we play it out. If we wasteland their wasteland and they can't play a 4-drop next turn. So I think we actually do that. I'm a little bit behind on clock as well, so I need to speed things up. If I can find a creature, I think this game will end relatively quickly. But that's quite a big if, isn't it? Play out on the plains and pass. We're just going to get beaten down by these rubbish little 3/3s. That'd be quite funny, to be honest. I don't mind losing the goblins. I like goblins as a deck. I need to stop drawing these planes, though. And to draw some sort of... just the 1 threat, please. Oh dear, oh dear. Are we just going to keep bricking on lands here? Like, there's not many turns left. Like, they can have a Lord as well that can just end the race next turn as well. So we really need to hit this turn. Okay. We'll play this out not using the vial so that we can vial it in if we have to. And then we will tap the Caracas stat to attach. We'll play this out first before putting anything on the stack. And then we will attach this onto this guy. So we can bounce him out of play with Caracas if we need to. And then redeploy him. But ideally, we want this guy to connect. So it can gain us life and it can kill their guys. So it can do a lot. Munitions expert. Sure. And that's why we kept the Ether Vial. So if they have a Lord, we're dead this turn. Or a haste creature would be pretty bad as well. They might just have more of these, that's why they haven't been playing anything, they just had these, but I think you probably would have played maybe one of them out at least. Okay, so this means it's going to be very hard for me to get Umezawa's Jitte counters. Also means that they have a lot of mana if they want to play something that costs more. But let's see what they end up with. It's going to be a Hasty Goblin. Sure, so I can block this and take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think I am dead this turn if they attack with everything. Why would you not attack with everything? Okay, there we go. So if I block this, I'll take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm dead. Sure, they found the line at the end. Yeah, that was a bit unfortunate. I just had like 5 dead draws in a row. If any of them had been business, I think we'd be fine, but sadly was not the case. On to round 4. So this is our opening hand on the draw. We have a Vial, which is nice, I guess. We have Crucible Wasteland Lock, but we don't really have anything else going on. I don't think we can keep this. I think we have to mulligan. This hand is a lot better. I think it's still only got 2 drops, but it has a lot of 2 drops and it has the Fiddlebender combo available. So I think we will keep this one and put back the redundant Painter's Servant. Our opponent is a 60 card deck, so we don't necessarily know what they're playing yet. A basic Forest, that gives me the impression they're playing Elves. Glistener Elf, Infect, oh dear. Not seen Infect for a while. This could be a very quick death for us. So play out this, so we can at least represent a Source to Plowshares. So we do have Wastelands. Green-white Infect. That's new to me. We can't just pass priority because they will just try and kill us if they see that we have passed priority. Alright. So the Ethersworn Canonist is going to be pretty good here, I think. We can play out the Wasteland. So we can play out the Painted Servant and try and kill them next turn. Or we can play Canonist to stop their combo kill. And then also play the Vial to slowly tick up. I think I like playing Canonist into Ether Vial here. Now, they might have a removal spell, but not much we can do about that really. So we play out the Ether Vial, we can tick this up to activate in a couple of turns for our Painted Servant. So they shouldn't be able to kill us this turn. And we can actually block this and they can pump, but I'm not a big fan of that. I think we just take the 1 poison, which is probably what it's going to be here, unless they start meeting out little bit by bit. Vines of Vastwood, sure. So that puts me up to 6 poison. So we definitely have to block next turn. Crucible of Worlds. So I think we play out the Painted Servant here. And then I don't think we want to Wasteland here. I think we want to keep the Wasteland just in case. They have white stuff, so I think we need to name black. So I think the plan is block with Ethersworn Canonist this turn. Hope they don't have something that gives it trample. Like 1 Berserk doesn't do it, they can only cast 1 spell. So they can remove my guy first. Okay, so this is just coming in for 2 poison. So I just take 2 poison? I guess. So if we draw a land here, it would be good, because then we can Wasteland, move to the next... Oh, I suppose we can Wasteland, move to the next phase, then activate our combo. Mana Source? Did not draw a Mana Source, but we have the Vial in hand. So we can activate this, targeting our opponent. If they do anything in response, we Ether Vial. Sure, they don't have anything. Excellent. Green-white Infect. Can't say I've seen that before. Deafening Silence will shut down some of their ability to combo really quickly. Removal spells are obviously always good here. I don't think we're going to have time to mess around with Anointed Peacekeeper here. So this is the sort of things we're looking like. Esper Sentinel is going to be good. Esper Canonist is good. The Fiddlebender, they're probably going to have Caracas because they're a white deck. I'd be very surprised they didn't. And they almost certainly have Crop Rotation to find it. So these are looking less good. The Pithing Needle can stop things. The Shadow Spear and Soul Guide Lantern aren't going to do anything. The Jitter, if I can get counters on it, will be nice. I think we can trim on some combo pieces. And then what we're looking at here. I think Crucible is actually going to be good here if I can Wasteland them out of the game. It doesn't look like they've got counter spells if they're green-white, so I don't think we need Ether Vials. So we can probably keep in another Painter's Servant and then run it back like this. Like Anointed Peacekeeper can be 3 mana to slow down a Amoth Nexus from doing anything, but is that good enough is the question. I think maybe we'll try 2 over the Fiddlebenders and see how we go. I think we'll submit like this. We've got the game in hand, which is nice, but we had the game in hand last time, so that didn't work us out too well either, so let's see how we do. Mother of Runes into Canonist. It's fine. Mother of Runes can block a 1/1 and activate. So this is fine, and then we just play a Saga game. And depending on the texture of the game, we can play out a Peacekeeper. Flooded Strand, so maybe it's Bant. It could be Bant rather than just straight up green-white. So maybe the Vials are better than I thought. Okay, it's a Tropical Island. Yeah, they just had the white cards. This is good for us that they didn't have an Infect guy on turn 1 though. Play this out, play out the Mother. A Daze. Sure, so that puts them back a turn as well. They don't have a lot that the Mother actually protects from. It's more of a case of trying to block with things and use the Mother. So, which is still good, don't get me wrong, but I think obviously getting the Canonist into play is going to be a bigger deal. Okay, so they're pondering. That's good for us, rather than deploying like Hierarch, Threat. Something. Are they on the... I thought they were going to be on the Hierarch beatdown plan there. So they missed a land drop, so if we had a Wasteland, we'd snap it right off here, but we didn't. So I think we play out the Saga. We play out the Canonist. Next time we can play out the Painted Servant, and we can have the combo in hand. We can have the combo on turn 3. If that's the thing we want to do. Or we can play the Saga's game. It depends on how much our opponent commits to the board. Do we need to win immediately, or can we grind a bit of value first? If they're going to keep missing lands, then we can probably grind a bit of value first. Brainstorm. So that's their 1 spell for the turn, but they're looking to hit lands anyway, so it just means they won't be able to play a threat this turn, which is fine by me. If they don't have a land here and they've brainstormed lot themselves, then I'll be very happy. Can't have it all, I suppose. So they can use this to crop rotation into an Inkmoth Nexus. Force of Vigor. That's pretty rude. Sure. So we have a Source of Plowshares here. The Iganjo can be an answer. So maybe we keep that in hand now. I think we just play out the Painted Servant because we've got a redundant Painted Servant here as well. We've got a bit of movement. It's interesting. Is this a hard cast Daze? Yeah, it's a hard cast Daze. Sure. We had a redundant Painted Servant anyway. Our opponent's down to 1 card and they haven't deployed a threat yet. So we get to make an Anointed Peacekeeper next turn and start bashing away. Unless we draw a Grindstone, in which case we just deploy both halves of our combo and say, can you beat this? Brainstorm is a pretty good card to have when you don't have a lot of resources to work with. They can possibly get a threat in play this turn. Okay, they have a threat in turn in play. So we play out the Iganjo. Play out the Source to Plowshares on this creature now. You got another Daze? You don't have another Daze. So we're going to get Namazawa's Jitte, because that is really good against Infect decks, because all their guys are 1/1s. So if we draw a land, we can play and equip Jitte. Haven't seen Infect for a long time. I think there's probably a good reason for that. It's quite weak to a lot of the removal suites going around. And when people are just making, you know, when you have Murktide Regent, what's the point of putting all these pump spells on a 1/1 when you can just have this massive 2 mana 8/8 or whatever it is? But I do like Infect. I think it's think it's a good deck, but I just don't. I think it's sort of fallen by the wayside in terms of playability. Okay, our opponent is pondering. They did not shuffle their library, so that's an interesting one. So we can portable hole here and still play our Jitte. But I think we just put the Jitte into play and we hold the portable hole for a threat. A Glistener Elf, sure. So we have the portable hole for that. So this plays around Daze, doesn't play around Force of Will, but if they have Force of Will, they're getting hit by the Jitte. So I think I've got a decent amount of interaction here. Okay, so they have the Force of Will. So this turn, we get counters on the Umezawa's Jitte. They can reduce the power of my Stoneforge Mystic by 1 by putting a counter on it. They've got no card in hand. Always kill this on sight. They've just conceded. Sure, excellent. We've got one more round to go for the 4-1. Right, we're into the final round now. Our opponent's a 60 card deck. We're on the draw. This is our opening hand. We're a bit vulnerable to Wasteland and Blood Moon effects, but we have a reasonable curve here, and if we can play the Crucible out, you can get a lot of work done. I think we're going to keep this one. Note that there are risks to me keeping this though. No hand is perfect at the end of the day, is it? Well, that's not true. Sometimes you do have the perfect hands, but if this was the Plains, that would be a lot better. Once Upon a Time. Okay, so this is giving me the impression that we're playing against elves. That'll be my instinct when I see a Once Upon a Time. A forest. A cloud post. Okay. This is going to be a difficult matchup. So we drew a plane, that's good. I don't think we have to worry about removal, so we're just going to play out there. This is going to be a difficult matchup for the milling plan because they have Emrakul in their deck. But we do have the Soul Guide Lantern, so we kind of have the thing that one-ups that. Okay, so they got 2 cloud posts. So we need to start playing Wastelands pretty sharpish. So these both tap for 2 each now. So our plan here is to get to Crucible and then Wasteland lock them out of the game. Which is a plan. Okay, so the forest we knew about. Pithing Needle. We're going to name Wasteland. I imagine they will name Wasteland here. Mother of Runes. A very bold play in my opinion. So play this guy out just because he's the quickest threat. So next time we play Crucible, and then they're going to regret naming Mother of Runes with their Pithing Needle. Is there anything we can get Esper Sentinel wise? If we cycle the Esper Sentinel, I don't think there's anything good. I think the best thing we can do, and then bash for 4. So this next turn of theirs has to be really good. Otherwise, they're going to have a lot of their things removed. Why are they worried about Mother of Runes? That seems a very odd name to me off the Pithing Needle. Okay, so they've got a Cloud Post there. They've got 5 mana. So if they've got another forest, they can play a Primeval Titan, which can certainly let the game start running away from us. We have the swords for it, and then we can just waste on them every turn. But that might not be enough. Have a lot of mana. Endurance. Shuffling in my Wasteland. Yeah, that's a pretty good play. So we can cast the Soul Guide Lantern first. And then if we cast Painted Servant, we only need 1 mana to kill the next turn. But we won't be able to hold up Swords to Plowshares. I think that's still a thing we want to do here. So I think we name white here. So we can't attack this turn, but we can mill them out next turn if we draw a mana source. There is that. And our opponent would have cast a Primeval Titan last turn if they had one. Glimmer Post. Sure, that gives them more mana. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's not enough to cast any of the really scary ones that I can recall. I could be mistaken. Walking Ballista. That's pretty good, because that can machine gun down. Okay, they're taking the Oswald out. So they're giving me the opportunity to draw into Grindstone there. Did not draw into Grindstone. So what do we do here? I think we source to Plowshares the Walking Ballista. We lose 2 of our guys. And then we play out the Oswald Fiddlebender. And then we're in the same position again as last time, where if we draw a land, we kill them, which is why I think they should have taken the Painted Servant. They get a lot more turns that way, because I have to cycle through loads of things. So I'm presenting the combo again next turn, and I can also exile their graveyard so I can get around the Emrakul. Do they draw one of their big scary ones? 10 mana is when it starts getting scary. I've not played against 12 post, whatever it is, for a long time. Pithing Needles. They're going to name Oswald Fiddlebender or Grindstone here. They name Fiddlebender, so I can still draw the Grindstone. Alright. Not 100% sure of some of their names and things here. So we have a Painted Servant. Obviously the Fiddlebender can jam for quite a bit, so we can't really attack into an Endurance is the problem here. But if we're not attacking into Endurance, how are we winning this game? Put out this Vial. I think we can play out. Let's paint a Servant. And everything is white, so let's make it doubly white. And then we say, go. All is Dust is an interesting one, because if they cast All is Dust, everything gets destroyed. Which is quite funny. Also turn off Eye of Ugin by playing Painted Servant, which should mean it's harder for them to make any of the really scary things. I can't find them. Once Upon a Time is a pretty good one. Gives them the opportunity to dig deep. I'm surprised they didn't play it pre-combat. Elvish Reclaimer. Okay. That's not bad. Because they can't tutor with Eye of Ugin, that's not so bad. Like, they're going to have a load of mana. And there's probably something horrible I've forgotten about they can get with it. Okay, so we've got Plains. So we have enough mana so that if our opponent plays... So if we draw a Grindstone, we can just play it and immediately win. Which is nice. If we draw a Portable Hole, we can also get rid of the Pithing Needle. So this on the Fiddlebender just meant that they didn't have anything going on for the immediate future, I think. So you name Grindstone if you can win relatively quickly, I reckon. Let's have a look. Horizon Canopy. Play this out. So we've got a draw engine now. We have a Grindstone. Interesting. So we don't play it out because they can't attack our hand. If we play it out, they're more likely to get some sort of disruption effect for it, I think. So I think we pass the turn here, and then next turn we do it all. Because we can also play something from our graveyard with a Crucible. No attacks. So again, our opponent can just draw things and murder us pretty badly here. So this is what? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they have 10 mana, so they can draw one of the big Eldrads. I think it's Ulamog that's 10 mana. But if they're going to tutor here for an Eye of Ugin, it's not going to do what they want. Yeah, so this makes colourless spells cost 2 less. But they're not colourless spells anymore. This feels like an error to me. Because they're worried about my... Like, they get rid of the Horizon Canopy, but if they're worried about my Grindstone, this gives them a way of dealing with it outside of Soulguide Lantern. So I can Soulguide Lantern and then can shuffle it back in again. Main deck Endurances are going to be problematic for us to deal with as well. So we're going to be looking to beat them down, I think, for the next game or games. Sure, we can take... I think we block one of them this turn. We don't want to get blown out by some sort of Walking Ballista type shenanigans. Caracas. So Eye of Ugin doesn't produce mana and doesn't tutor. So it was an incredibly bad thing for them to get. They have one card in hand, so it could be a hard cast Endurance. That's a possibility. Say no to this. And then we will play the Grindstone out. I think if they have the hard cast Endurance, they win here. Which maybe that's why they played the last one out. They do. They have 3 Endurance in their hand. How do we beat this? Jeez. Yeah, I don't think I can play around triple Endurance. Like, it was slightly telegraphed with the fact they cast it, but I don't have any other way to play this game. Like, we're losing on the board. I think we just have to concede this one. That's a shame. I think our opponent played very suboptimally with their Pithing Needles, with getting the Eye of Ugin, with the way they use their Walking Ballista. But, oh well, we're going into the second game. So what is good here? We want to be able to remove some of their creatures. The ones that we can anyway. Rest in Peace helps us combo. But it also means that the Crucible of Worlds Wasteland plan is off. But realistically, they shouldn't be able to... They shouldn't be losing to Wasteland Crucible of Worlds, I don't think, anyway. Like, maybe they can... Oh, it's tricky. So a lot of this stuff isn't relevant. So the Pithing Needle is good, stops Elvish Reclaimer. The Ether Vials, I don't actually think are good here. The Esper Sentinels don't do much, but they hold weapons. The Canonist doesn't do much. The Fiddlebender, we've seen Caracas, so we should at least trim one of these. Painted Servant combo is fine. Like, they're going to be boarding in all their Force of Vigors and all that nonsense, which is going to be a bit ugly for us. So maybe we do have to keep the Crucible package in and try and just wasteland them out of the game, and then use the March for the Worldly Lights to blow up Pithing Needles, which means we're not trying to Rest in Peace them. So we're really not trying to combo them, I think, is what the over-under on that is. To the point where maybe we even bring in these Anointed Peacekeepers and then start trimming some Painted Servants so they're just to shoot a thing with Oswald. And we're just trying to play a Wasteland game. Yeah, this matchup doesn't feel great because they have the ability to shuffle in their deck many, many times. So we're going to run it back like this though. We wanted to see this card. We'll keep this. Still don't know why they Pithing Needle the Mother of Runes early on. A very strange play to me. Out with the Mother of Runes. Just a forest. Elvish Reclaimer. Pretty annoying. Play this out. We just play out 2 Esper Sentinels this turn. So this hand wasn't great, if I'm honest. I should have mulliganed to Stoneforge Mystic, I think. But we had the Wasteland and we had a Saga. So Saga is one of the things you want to keep in your open hand in this deck, so I think it was fine. The Elvish Reclaimer makes our Wasteland look bad. Tabernacle and Pendrell Vale. Sure. So there's a Stoneforge you want. We play this out. We just hit this now. So next turn we play Urza's Saga, Stoneforge Mystic, Mother of Runes. It's annoying having to burn a Tabernacle on a non-cloud post, but I don't really think we have a choice. Wasteland? Go on, give me a Wasteland deck. We just get the Cauldron Complete here. They don't have a lot of removal. So next turn we Cauldron Complete and start bashing. We have to try and race what they're doing. Maybe pick up some Wastelands along the way would be nice. So Wasteland here would be good. Reclamation Sage. So we're going to lose our Urza's Saga. That's not great, but it's fine because we have the Mother of Runes. The Stoneforge Mystic, so we already have a beatdown plan. Play this out. And then I think we... Do we Source the Plowshares the Elvish Reclaimer? Is the question. So if we source Planetary Area's Reclaimer and they untap and play Primeval Titan, I'm going to feel pretty bad. So I think we just have to let them have the Reclaimer for another turn, which is not what I want. If we had some Wastelands or something, sure. Like this build of the Monowhite painted deck is much better against Cloudpost than the other one because your ability to beat down is just way better, which is kind of what you have to do against the Cloudpost deck because they so many endurances and the Emeralds means it's so difficult to try and combo them off. Right. Okay, so have a lot of mana. 3, 6, 7, 8. They can't cast the Ulamog and they can't cast the Primeval Titan this turn. Unless they're floating and then cracking with Elvish. No, because it comes in tap, doesn't it? They're paying cost for something. Green Sun Zenith for 6. So they're getting a Primeval Titan. So we get Ancient Den. It's not very exciting. But they get to Primeval Titan. That's good. Maybe we should keep more Painted Servants in the deck to mess with their Ivugin. I think it's just one of those times where this matchup is just going to be really bad unless you get multiple Wastelands to start with. Have your 6 life. So I'm glad I didn't source the Plowshares, the Elvish Reclaim now. Have a Ganjo. How good is a Ganjo here? I think we have to come in with everything, apart from the Mother of Runes. So we can Ganjo the Elvish Reclaim if it blocks a 1/2, and we can Mother Runes the Stoneforge. Like, we're doing stuff, we're doing the most we can, but this matchup is pretty miserable. It's a shame. Felt like we were running well, and then we sort of got a bit unlucky with the Goblin draws, and now we're getting unlucky with the matchup. So, Primeval Titan. So I had a follow-up Primeval Titan, which explains why they got the other Forest, and not a Yavimaya as well, which would have given them more mana, would have made them have all the green mana they wanted, but obviously they could get Wastelanded off it, so they definitely had a green-green play that they wanted in hand. Okay, so next turn I think they get to Eldrazius, so drawing a Wasteland would be real nice about now. Oh, they get to Eldrazius now. Okay, I think we are dead here, you can just concede. Alright, so that's the end of the league. Let's have a little look at the deck and talk about it. Playing this deck felt like the best iteration of this deck that I've played so far, to be honest. The Crucible managed to win us games, and it could have won us another game against the Cloudpost deck if things fell a little bit differently. It was just slightly off. I just think the Stoneforge package, unsurprisingly, is very powerful and gives you a really strong pivot and definitely requires more answers than something like Ingenious Smith. Sideboard-wise, again, I'm pretty happy with this. I didn't really get to do much with the March for the Worldly Light, but it took out an Ether Vial where other things might not necessarily have done the same. So it was basically the same as a Disenchant in that one, but I could have pivoted it to kill more creatures if I wanted. So yeah, I like the deck. Like, I think we got a little bit unfortunate today. The Goblins matchup, if those 5 or so draws in a row were, you know, if 2 of them were creatures along the way, I think we win that game like 90% of the time. But alas, was not to be. And matching against Cloudpost, like, sometimes you're just going to get matchups that are hard and you can't really do anything about that. You just got to take on the chin. That's part of the fun of Magic. You got to get a little bit lucky to win any sort of tournament at the end of the day. Yeah, so I was very happy with the deck today. I've actually got this deck in paper and I've ordered my Stoneforge foil, so we're looking to play this in a paper event towards the end of the month, which should be quite exciting. But I hope you've been enjoying me jamming this deck. It's a little bit of a pet deck of mine that I really enjoy. Alright, that's it for today, but before you go, if you've been enjoying this content and you've watched it all the way this far, why not give my channel a subscription? I need as many subscribers as I can get, and it doesn't cost you anything, so why not do it and help me out? Alright, thanks for watching, and goodbye.